Okay, boys and girls, we are back. Um, Unfortunately, earlier this afternoon, I had a maintenance person scheduled to come over. As you can see, I'm in my home office, and it's in the basement, and the laundry facility is right behind me. And unfortunately, I had to deal with that. I had to make sure that was taken care of. And so the good news is the dryer is up and running, and so am I. So we're back to Coffee Tea, You and Me. For those of you all who are finding the live stream and coming on board or coming back, I really appreciate you. I know how difficult it is to, keep things going. And now my dryer is making a whole bunch of noise. So while you guys are coming on board, I'm going to stop the dryer that just started working. Okay, here we go. And now there's a little Aretha Franklin playing in the background for you guys. I'm going to turn that off, and we're going to keep this party going. Okay, so we were talking earlier about planning. Why planning is important. I told a wonderful story about Sarah, who was a wonderful Coast Guard master diver, and how she became a Coast Guard master diver. And we're going to move now into our module, so we can go right into the planning module. For those of you who have it, you can go ahead and use it right now, or you can download it from one of either Facebook or YouTube in the chat. And if you're there, I really appreciate that. And we talked about planning. We talked about the learning objectives, and we're going to get right into, some of the meat and the potatoes here about what stops us from planning. There are a couple of key things that makes planning difficult for everyone. And these are just the two things that if we can get around and get over, we can be good. These two concepts are simple. Because one is ignorance, meaning we don't know what we need to know to feel comfortable even designing a way forward, even putting together a strategy, even to come up with some ideas that we think might work. We don't know enough. We don't feel like we know enough. And so, therefore, we don't plan. Now, there's also the fear. Fear is a heavy, heavy emotional thing. And it really stops people in their tracks. It keeps people from thinking well. It keeps people from moving forward. It keeps everything from happening when it comes to our growth and our development. And it's fear. Now, this is a natural reaction. For those of you all who might know it already, the SCARF model is one of the greatest concepts ever created to help us as leaders deal with fear. And if you're at any point in doubt of what that's all about, go ahead and Google the SCARF model. It's basically an acronym. That's SCARF. These are the things that make us stop. They literally make us paranoid. They make us fearful. They make us, unsure of ourselves. And when you understand how to get around the SCARF process, as a person, as an individual, as a leader, help other people get around the SCARF process, then you're helping them deal with essentially what is chaining them to their current results. Because when you're fearful, you are not going to try different and new things. You're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And that's a problem, specifically when it comes to planning, because planning is a wonderful interactive process that allows you to assess what the future might look like and then start to do the things that you need to do to move in that direction towards that future that you want, those goals that you're trying to hit. And then as you're dialing in, as you're assessing what you're doing, what's happening is you're learning. And the good planners know that even in the midst of executing a great plan, you have to step back and really look at what you're doing. You have to step back and go, okay, how's it going? What needs to be tweaked? What needs to be fixed? What needs to be adjusted? And you make those adjustments. So I love small businesses, because small businesses are able to adjust in the middle of their execution. And because they see something different or see something smart or see something that they didn't see, they couldn't see, no matter how much research or planning they did. Once you get started in your plan, you have to understand that continuous ongoing planning is something that has to be a part of the process. Whatever the process is that created the plan, you have to continue that process to update the plan, to tweak the plan, to create new plans, and just keep strategizing. You can never just set it and forget it. That's not going to be the case. I mean, you have to be at this for years and years and years and years. And even then, think about the people who were moving and shaking and moving under a wonderful plan before COVID-19 hit. And COVID-19 hit, shook up all their plans because nobody planned for a pandemic. It just wasn't happening. Globally, all over the world, entrepreneurs, small business leaders, everybody who had anything to move forward in a hairy, scary, audacious goals, they might have been crushing it. They might have been on the way to, phenomenal, maximizing success. But then this unforeseen, untold event happened. And so things like that on the social, political, or economic or scales of economy will always make you have to readjust your plans. And so you have to be really, really careful about that and be ready to make a readjustment whenever you need to. And what else did I want to share with you about planning? Okay, so if you remember the story we told you earlier about Sarah, you just have to pivot sometimes. And all good plans, require learning as you go. And you're going to have to pivot, and you're going to have to know that you're going to have to pivot, because when you do that, that's going to keep you on the path. And planning in the first place kind of lets you know where things are not going right. But if you never had a plan and you start off, things start going wrong, you're not going to notice it fast enough to make an adjustment. That's why I tell my friends all the time, and I ask them this question. Listen, do have a well-written, well-articulated, brilliant plan that's going to allow you to receive the benefits of planning, which we discussed earlier. Does your plan help you win big deals? Does your plan help you move faster? Does your plan help you attract other people who could make an investment in you, or time, talent, or energy? Does your plan help you grow with confidence? Does your plan create a process for you that you can change and be flexible with and tweak it when you need to? Does your plan help you reduce risk? And finally, does your plan help you understand and know the value that you bring to the table? If your plan is not doing all of those things, and there's 7 different elements, right? If your plan is not giving you any of those 7 benefits, then it's not good enough. It's not the right kind of plan for you. And these elements or being able to receive these benefits can help you understand what you're really looking for. What do you want your plan to do, right? Do you want your plan? And I would assume that most of us want all of these benefits, but maybe you only want one. Maybe you don't want 2. That's really up to you. But a good assessment, if you ask yourself, does my plan do these things? Does my plan help me hit these 7 benefits of planning? And if they do, great. If they don't, you got some work to do, right? And you know what you have a clear idea of what you should work on. Now, let's talk about back to what makes your plan not effective. Over the years, I've heard, 1,000 different excuses, and you can come up with 1,000 different excuses for why you can't plan. But they all boil down to those same 2 things we talked about earlier. It's either I don't know something that I need to know, or I like to know, or should know, or I'm just afraid, right? And I like that, Shura. That's really a great example of why a lot of people have excuses. Like, as a coach, and I tell my wife sometimes, the shoemaker's kid doesn't have shoes, right? So I am great at coaching and teaching and training and developing other people. Sometimes I don't follow my own advice, though. And that's when I realize that I'm doing something that I would not advise others to do, that's when I check myself. But it's not good enough for me to just check myself and develop some self-discipline. Now what I have to do is I have to find somebody else to hold me accountable, right? I have to find somebody else, another stakeholder in whatever I'm thinking about doing that cares about me or cares about what that thing is. And I have to say, listen, I need you to hold me accountable to this. Because I recognize that without accountability, without me making a promise to someone else, even if it's a self-serving promise, then the likelihood that I'm going to make the change that I need to make is nil and none, right? I'm not going to do that. And I want you to hang in here with me for the next couple of weeks, because we're going to be talking a lot about how to know that it's time to make a change, and then what do you do to help you make the change. You need to do two things. First thing you need to do is you need to recognize that you need to change something, right? Then you need to put it in your plan. A part of your plan has to be, I got to make this change, right? But the two key elements, the things that are most important for you to actually make the change outside of planning, is this: find some other people who are with you, care about you, want to work with you, whether it's a mentor, a friend, a consultant, an advisor, a therapist, another coach, whatever that is. Find somebody who wants to work with you to make that change. And then you hold each other mutually accountable. It's the team, it's the accountability that makes you 7 to 9 times more successful than the person who had the same skills, the same knowledge, the same information, everything else being even. When you add a strong network of people and accountability, the opportunities for success grow exponentially. And there's a lot of reasons for that, which we probably can get into when we start talking later on in these courses. But for right now, we want to talk about what planning is and what planning isn't. And so if you have the documents, that the training manual here, the training module I have in front of you that I've downloaded here, if you have it in front of you, if you picked it up from either LinkedIn or Facebook or any place else, what you're going to see here is that there's some learning tools, right, that I found that I think are great tools for you to go learn. Now, we're not going to go over them in detail right here, but the links to those learning tools are going to take you to documents that you should use for thinking about planning, and they're going to take you to videos that are going to help you with. And one of my favorites is here. Kateri Costa put this out, and it's a great document, and it lists maybe 7 different issues that one can have when you don't plan. And that's not what the article is about. The article is about the things that can happen when you do plan. I transpose those into ideas and concepts that can happen when you don't plan, because I need you to understand, when you don't plan, these things are real. When you don't plan, you simply won't get the right people to invest in you. Nobody will trust you. No one will, because everybody will say, well, show me something. Show me a document. Show me your plan. Show me your idea, your concept. What they really want to know is, do you know what you're talking about? Do you know what you're trying to do? Or can you haven't convinced me with your verbal argument, so I need to see something that's tangible that I could hold you accountable for, or that I could trust. And without a plan, you can't do that. So it's very difficult for somebody who's discerning, who's wise, who has, something to risk on your behalf, to say yes to something they can't see, something they don't understand. They just got to go on a gut feeling, which we know most of the time, even those of us who have our intuition dialed up to a large degree, still are wrong quite a bit with that intuition. So we need to have that proof. We need to have that document. We need to have that information that suggests that you got the right thing going on. So you can't get anybody to trust you if you don't have a plan. Number 2, you're going to bumble along. You're not going to grow if you don't have a plan. You're not going to move forward fast. You're not going to be able to hit the speed bumps and keep on cruising if your plan isn't good. If your plan isn't good, you're not going to be as resilient. In fact, you're going to quit a lot sooner than you would if you had a good plan. And, with a good plan, you can just sail right on through. You can just keep going. You can just, sometimes the road's rough, things get a little rough. You just put your head down and you just keep on plowing through because you got a good plan. And you have a good plan. And as long as your faith hasn't been shaken and your wisdom isn't twisted, then your plans are going to be really good. Number 3, you can be confident, and you can't be confident if you don't have a plan. If you don't have a plan and you have a level of confidence in something that you don't have a ton of experience in, and when I say experience or expertise, what I'm really saying is if you haven't put 10,000 hours into something of honing the skills that's practice and rehearsing and you better have a plan. And by the way, if you're that good at it, yeah, you don't need to plan. You don't, because it's like waking up every morning and putting your foot down. You know exactly what you should do. You've done that so many times, then you don't need a plan. You only need a plan when you're going to do something that's just outside of your comfort zone, just outside of your current ability. That's when you absolutely need a plan. It's going to require some resources that you don't have, that you need to get from somewhere else. You need a plan, right? And so number 3 is very key, because you can't be confident if you don't have a plan, unless you're already a bona fide, dyed-in-the-wool, tried and true expert at whatever it is you're trying to do. All right, now we'll make that caveat. Number 4, you can't deal with challenges proactively if you don't have a plan, because part of planning is looking at the objectives that are out there, looking at the things that might be hurdles or challenges for you, and then figuring out how you're going to deal with them. Now, so when you deal with them, when you see those challenges, I love this. When I have a good plan going and something challenges me, especially a challenge I already expected, I'm like, I got this, right? Because I already know this challenge can happen. I already know that there's something that's gonna make this difficult, that's outside of me. But I prepared myself to deal with it. I've equipped myself. I've got what I need to go around it, get over it, whatever that is, mitigate it, right? The risk that's out there, I see it. So I've already analyzed it, I've already looked at it, and the problem becomes when there's things that come up that you aren't prepared for. And I think you should be prepared to deal with those things even when they come up. So now I know you're asking me the question, well, Marvin, how do I prepare for something that I don't recognize is a potential problem, potential risk? How do I get prepared for that? You always have to, in your planning schedule, whatever that plan is, sit down and reassess every situation. And go ahead, how's it going? What's not working well? Because you're going to be able to see it. You're going to be able to identify a problem a lot faster if you have a plan than if you don't. And you're going to be able to see systems starting to break down, processes starting to not work right, and you're going to be able to tell, like, you know what, this isn't moving forward as fast as I thought it was going to be, or it's moving too fast, and therefore it's causing another problem in the system. And so I gotta figure out how to respond to this issue over here, because if I don't, it's going to come back and bite me, and I'm not going to be able to move forward. So I got to make sure. This happens a lot in business, especially small business. Like when your sales like far exceed your expectation, now you got fulfillment issues, right? You got to be able to fulfill all the things, all the promises that you made out there, or your marketing brought in more opportunities than you know how to handle. You don't have the capacity to handle all the incoming inquiries and the thoughts and the process, and you just can't handle them all. All right. And people say those are good problems, but they're not good problems, because when they happen, if they happen consistently over time, your reputation gets damaged in whatever that thing is you were trying to do. And you gotta make sure that, you gotta eat a lot of humble pie. You gotta go back and apologize. You have to make sure that you're saying the right things to come out of it. No matter what you're doing, you gotta focus on being the best you possibly can be. And you can't do it if your plan is not right. You can't be proactive. You can't really make good, confident decisions. It's really difficult. Number 5, you will take on more risk than you should if you don't have a good plan, because you don't know what a risk is that you should say no to. And part of planning is coming up with those things and understanding that, okay, these are going to be challenges to me. I'm gonna have to say no to these things. Let me deal with them right up front. Like today, the reason why the broadcast started late is I had a person who's supposed to come over and repair my dryer early this morning, right? He didn't show up early this morning. He showed up at 3:30. At 3:30, I'm into another phase of my life. I'm in the other phase of my business. I don't have time to deal with the dry repair person. And I lost, half the people on the call or on this program because I had to stop and handle that business. Right? That was a disruption. I couldn't have planned for that. But luckily, I was able to pivot because I knew all I had to do was stop the broadcast and then restart the broadcast when it was a better time for me to do so. So you got to have a plan. You got to be able to assess whatever the risks were. But that was not a risk I needed to assess because it was impossible for the guy to still be here when I started the broadcast. But he just arrived when I started the broadcast. And, I could just totally say, you know what? I could scratch this and do it again next week. Or I could take all that preparation that I already did and put it out there because I realized that even if there's not a lot of people who are watching this live, there will be people who watch it later on. And why should they suffer? Even if they're going to watch it tomorrow night or Friday morning or next week, whatever, why should they suffer because of that problem? And I'm ready, like I just push the button to move on and keep the party going, right? So it's very, very important. But you don't want to take on more risk than you should. You don't want to do that. So if you have a proper plan, proper program, it'll allow you to pivot and just take a step back and then re-engage when you need to re-engage because you already have a concept, a plan. Just because the person was a distraction doesn't mean that my flow in terms of what I wanted to say, what I wanted to train and teach people is off or bad. No, doesn't mean that at all. It just means that there's a disruption and I had to pivot. But with a plan, I could pivot, right? Number 6, if you don't have a plan, you won't know when you're winning. You just won't know. You won't know when you finish. You won't know when to stop. You won't know when, you've taken a detour and you've gotten off track and you're just hopping from opportunity to opportunity to opportunity to opportunity. I know you know people like that who really don't have a clear concept of what they're trying to accomplish or why they're trying to accomplish it or where they're going. And without that, they're just all over the place. And then they ask you for some help, somehow, some way. How's that feel? I don't know about you, but I'm never comfortable helping people who I think have bitten off more than they can chew, right? I'm not comfortable with that. I'll help you. It's almost like, one of the things that I learned from church is that we're supposed to help people, especially people who are in need. But even people who are in need, they know what they need. If it's hunger, they need food. If it's poverty, then they need money. Or no, if they can't have a roof over their head, they need a place to stay. This is a well-documented need. And it's really simple. If you have the ability to help, you can help. But now, if a person thinks they need blah, 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 when they don't really need blah, 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 when they really need is something else. But they're trying to do, whatever they're trying to do, and it doesn't seem like that's something that you really can help them with without a whole bunch of work. It's very difficult. So that's why I tell people, if you have a plan, you make it easy to say to people, here's what I'm doing, here's why I'm doing it, here's what it's going to look like when it's all said and done, here's the process that I'm going to be using to get me there. I think you have a special talent, or you have some resources, or you have some people that you might know that might be able to help me facilitate this. And now a person can know specifically what it is you need and how it is they can help you. Because if they know who they are and what they bring to the table, they know what their skills are, they know what's in their network, they know who they know what they know. And they know that if they have something that they can help you with after reviewing your plan, they can go with confidence. Yes. Now, isn't that somebody you would much rather help than somebody who gives you situations or puts you in situations where they're not even sure they know what they're doing, but they're going to ask you to help them? And I think that's a bad thing, right? The last thing or last few things actually. Number 7, what your plan will help you understand is it's impossible to prioritize your activity without a plan. So you end up wasting a lot of time doing things that you think should be done, but you're doing them out of sequence, or you're doing them out of the order that they should go into. Because so sometimes you need more intensity on certain things than you need in other things, but you don't know how to make that adjustment because you don't have a full thought through, well understood, well documented, well articulated plan. And so you end up just doing stuff that you know needs to be done, but it might not be in the right timing. It might not be the right inflection points. It might not be the right energy or drive that you need to put behind it. So you're laying off, you're taking things too easy where you should be putting the pressure on and really making this work really well. So it's very difficult without a plan to even prioritize, even figure out what activities are the smartest activities to be doing right now, or when in this process should I be engaging in this versus that, right? Or and God forbid you're a leader, you're trying to lead people, and they're saying, "Hey, boss, what should we be doing now?" And you go, "Well, just keep doing what you're doing." You think they would have asked you what to do if they didn't know that they had to do what they're already doing? They obviously they either finished what they were already doing, or they got this on lock already, and they're looking for something new that adds to the process or the project. You got to think that through. What is it that needs to be done? What needs to be done next? What needs to be done after that's done? And you got to have your plan will have all that laid out for you, and make it much easier for you if some part of the process kind of went a little faster than you thought it was going to be. Like you can say, okay, well, you know what? We got here faster. Now we're ready for phase 3 or 5.7 or whatever the next order or the next structure is in the plan. But without a good plan, you have no way of making that prioritization, no way of making that adjustment. And the last thing that I think is the most important thing about having a plan. Having a plan really codifies in detail what your value is. It's how you know the most essential things that every person wants to know. Every person wants to know, how am I meaningful here? What am I doing that's of any significance towards this process or this organization or whatever that is? How do I fit in? And where do I fit? Without a plan, you can't answer those questions, not just for yourself, but for anybody else who might be working with you. And so it's very, very critically important, because when people don't feel valued, when they don't feel like they're adding some significance or meaning in a process, that's when they stop giving you their best. And when they stop giving their best, that's when things start breaking down. And when things start breaking down, that's when failure is imminent. Right? It's going to happen. It's going to be a fail. And you can jump up and down and do what you want to do, but you're not going to stop the failure from happening because you don't know. Your plan is not in place and telling people you don't know they don't know what to do next. And you couldn't tell them what to do next because you don't really have a plan. They can't read it for themselves and you can't articulate it. Everybody lost. Everybody is basically struggling at that point. So go back and take a look at that article and see if you come up with anything other than those 8 problems that I've just identified. Because there's going to be issues if you don't have a plan that's good and in place. Thanks, Cheryl, for coming out. You'll be able to watch the recording, so don't worry about having to stick around, because it's going to be here for you. And I'll be here for you. So if you have any questions or anything you want me to answer, come on back, watch the video, put whatever your questions are in the chat, and I promise I'll respond. We got to move forward, though. Grace Cho had another article that I thought was incredibly important when it comes to planning. And when you get a chance, you should definitely take a look at it. And it's the link here in the training manual. And she pointed out 5 key things that I think is important that goals and life achievement are all about, right? Number one, I love this. Nobody can tell you what to do. Nobody can tell you who you are. Nobody can tell you why you're here. Nobody can tell you what your purpose is. I mean, I know there are people who claim to be prophets, right? And they might know some things that you don't know about you. But in general, your orders of who you are and where you come from, you have to discern those things. You have to figure that out. That is why you can't have somebody else. You can't give somebody else the plan that you have, your plan. You can't make them responsible for your plan. You have to be responsible for your plan because you know your purpose. You know your meaning. You know what value you're trying to drive. And so your plan has to be one that you can execute. If you make a plan that you can't execute and no one else can execute that you know, then I gotta tell you, that plan's gonna fail, right? That implementation process is gonna fail. And so you can't allow somebody else to give you your plan. I've seen it happen all the time. And, you know, I'll walk into an organization who was working with a consultant. And a consultant from, you know, one of the big consulting organizations will come up with this, you know, wonderful 50-page plan for what should happen in this division, right? And it includes everything you want to include. I mean, everything you can imagine is there. And I ask the leader, are you implementing that plan? And I go, oh, well, no. I go, well, why not? He says, well, we didn't have anything to do with the plan. And some of the suggestions they make in the plan are pretty much just suggestions. And so we're not following it. It was nice we paid for it. You know, the consultant came in and they asked some questions and they shadowed us and they figured out all our issues and problems and so on and so forth. But then we fired half of those people. And so, you know, it's not even a problem anymore. I was like, how do you know? Did you read the plan? And like, yeah, I read it. I skimmed it, you know, 2 years ago. You see my point? A plan that's done by somebody else without a tremendous amount of input from you is very hard to take serious. It's very hard to implement something that you didn't have a hand in creating. And that's why I'm trying to tell you that, you know, if you really, because I'm an implementation specialist. I'm not a planning specialist per se. I know how to plan, but I'm more of an implementation because I'm the one who's going to figure out, well, where did this break down? Where did your process break down? And what do you have to do to fix that process? And number one, that sang right out to me. When I saw this on Cho's program, I was like, okay, no one can tell you what to do. Number two, you need to understand the ecosystem of your industry. If you don't know what best practices are in your business, in your industry, in your profession, whatever they are, and you don't know why they exist, you got some work to do. You need to know the history of your profession. You know, when did they start implementing these types of ideas and concepts? Why? Who are the key leaders today? What are the competitors doing? What's the future of this thing going to be? What are the futurists in this industry saying about it? If you don't know, it's going to be very difficult for you to plan to be anything other than what you already are. Wherever that is, whatever position you hold, you can't grow if you don't understand the entire ecosystem, if you don't understand the history of it all. You got to be a student of your thing, whatever your thing is. And I mean that in every role that you play in life. I mean that in everything you do. So, in everything you are. For example, I always tell people, you know, every human being exists, right? You're a spiritual being, you're an emotional being, you are a physical being, and you are heart, mind, body, soul, right? These are the four areas of your life, right? Your relationships, your cognitive processes, your mind, your heart, which is I've said that relationships already, your body, which is a physical being, and your soul, which is your spiritual being, right? So if you have those things, shouldn't you have goals for all those areas in your life? Shouldn't you have some plan for how you're going to be better at experiencing you? Not on top of that, you got your roles that you play, right? You're your brother, you're a husband, you're a wife, you're a friend. And in those roles, shouldn't you have a plan for how you're going to be better in those roles, if you don't have a plan, how's it going to get better? Is it important to get better? If it's not important to get better, then you don't need a plan. But if you need to get better, that means you got to do something different. You got to grow, which means you need a plan, right? Same thing for your professional roles, right? No matter what you are, if you're a leader, if you're a follower, if you're a team member, whatever it is you do in your organizations that you belong to or work in, right? You need plans. And you need to know where you fit in those plans. You need to know what your role is in those plans. You need to know what not your job description, right? I'm talking about the things that will make you better, the things that will make you grow. What do you need to develop? What do you need to change? Right? But you can't understand if you don't understand the ecosystem, you can't plan. You can't plan well, and your plan's not going to work. Number 3, you got to know your numbers. You got to know your numbers. Now, we're going to get to goal setting later on, but when you talking about specifically what you're trying to accomplish, how will you know you're getting there if you can't measure it? If you can't measure where you are now and where you're going, how will you know you're even progressing? How will you know? You got to know your numbers. You got to know. You got to be able to assess where you are. And then you need to be able to apply a course to move you forward. You need to know if that's working or not working. How will you measure it? What will be happening? What will be the goal? How will you know I call that the track of achievement? How will you know what that is? So you got to know your numbers when your plan doesn't work. Number 4, when you got a good plan, you're going to be a great leader. Because great leaders can articulate and they can guide and direct others. And they can say, we're going this way. And people go, oh, yeah, we're going that way? Okay, I see what you're trying to do. I'm with you. Let's go. Right? That's what a good leader does. They guide and direct people in a direction. They equip them to be a part of a team or an organization. And they make sure that they're constantly checking. Are we doing it? Are we on path? Are we making it happen? If not, then again, your plan is off. It's not working. It's not moving things in the right direction. And you need to change. You need to flex. You need to be flexible. You need to go back to winning. Learn how to do that. It's very, very important. Right? So if you get a chance, again, back in the training module, go check out what Ms. Cho has to say about this thing. I love this story from Ruchi Shah, who talked about village banking. And there's some key aspects of what she said that I want to bring out to you when it comes to village banking, and why I'm talking about this in context of planning. You see, village banking works for a couple of key reasons. One, the right team is in place. If you're planning to do something and you don't have the right team in place, this is a problem. For those of you who have never read Good to Great, I suggest you go ahead and check that out, because you won't know, or Who Moved My Cheese. These are books that talk about having the right people on the bus. If you don't have the right people on the bus moving with you, then you're gonna have problems on the bus. You're gonna have problems on your journey. And you need the right people. So you gotta think about it. What resources, what tools, what equipment, what information, what knowledge, what task orientation, what specific gifts do I need to assemble? Because they're all in people. All that stuff is in people, right? I need that information. I need the resources. I need the talent. I need to marshal all that in order to move something forward that I can't move by myself. So that's the thing. Teamwork, very, very important. You can't do anything by yourself, so don't even try. Start in the beginning with organizing and thinking through who's on the team. Make them part of the planning process. Very important. Number 2, you have to be ready to constantly change. Feedback. Get it, live by it, restructure, reorganize, redefine yourself because of it. Without feedback, your plan is going to be horrible. You're not going to be able to make adjustments. You're not going to be able to pivot when you need to pivot. You're not going to be able to respond to the reaction that you're getting from the people that you're trying to impact with your plan, because you're not getting feedback. Or you're getting feedback, you're not paying attention to the feedback. Where you pay attention to the feedback, but you're not responding to the feedback. Or you're responding to the feedback, but you're not responding again to the new feedback. You're not creating closure, right? You're not saying, you know what, you brought this issue forward. I saw it. We did it. We made these adjustments and so on and so forth. I want you to do me a favor and let me know if it's better. This is what you can do with feedback. This is what feedback does for you and anyone who is trying to grow, anybody who's trying to plan and be responsive in their planning. Hi, Candace. I see you out there, sweetie. Candace, while you're here, because everybody else already did this, go ahead and put your name and information in the chat if you want people to follow up with you, contact you. We're going to keep the party going. If you need to go back and watch the video, no problem. Go back and do that. In fact, you probably have to go back 2 videos to catch up to what we're talking about right now, because I had a little faux pas earlier today and I had to stop the video and then restart it. So I lost a few people. But in any case, we're going to keep the party going. All right. Number 3, when it comes to understanding why good planning works, is it allows you to have a relentless pursuit of the numbers. It allows you really to know what you're doing, why you're doing it, how to measure it, how to move forward in it, and how to make sure those things are working the way they're supposed to work. And if those things are happening, then again, without the numbers, you got a bad plan. So 3 key ideas that I pulled from Ms. Shaw in her talk, right? Focus on make sure you have the right team, or your plan's going to be horrible. Make sure that you're responding to feedback constantly. Put a mechanism in place where you're getting feedback and you're responding to feedback, and you're changing as fast as you possibly can, because that's how you grow. That's great planning. Number 3, last but not least, keep the numbers in front of you. Pursue the numbers. Like, live by the numbers. Because the numbers are, they help you pace it out. They help you track forward. The last thing I want to talk to you about, a couple skill drills that I have embedded in the training document. So if you are watching this on YouTube or you're watching this on Facebook, you can download that document. In the back, you're going to see some skill drills. These drills are there not for you to do right now, but for you to think about later on. But I want to talk to you about them and the questions that they're asking you, and answer any questions that you may have around them, because I think it's very, very important when you think about planning in general. You're going to improve the quality of your planning if you go through these skill drills. And next week, we're going to be talking about a different phase of planning. Today, we're talking about overall planning. But next week, we're going to get into the details. We're going to talk about what your vision can do for you in your planning and how you can use that. So let's get into skill number 1. I want you to go ahead and go on the internet, use your social networks, use your internet search tools, whatever, and I want you to establish 10 names of people that you would like to be close with. Have them in your inner circle. Would you like to be able to respond to 10 people that you know that if you could call on the telephone and get their advice, their opinions, their help, it would make all the difference for you in whatever you're doing. And these are people that they don't exist in your network right now, but you know it would be extremely helpful to have them in your inner circle. Do your homework, come up with 10 people. I want to discuss this next week for those of you who come back next week and you're ready. I want to discuss this with you and see how that was going. And I want you to answer yourself, this question: why do you want to meet with them in the first place, and how do you imagine that you're going to collaborate with them? It's a big key to the planning process. If you don't know how to collaborate with other people, if you don't know how to come up with collaborative processes, then you have to learn that. That's a skill you have to learn to do, because a good plan is nothing if you don't have various different opinions that belong to and appreciate and give you feedback on that plan. Maybe even invest in that plan with you, maybe in partner with you somehow, some way. It's not going to be great enough. It's not going to be good enough to do anything great. You might make some steps forward, but you won't achieve anything near greatness without a collaborative team, people that are working with you in every phase of your planning and execution. Number 2, I want you to list out 3 to 5 strengths that you know you have. These are skills, talents, abilities that you know you have. Either you come by it naturally, or you've developed it over time with training or some type of, formalized process, experience, right? What are those skills? 3 to 5 skills that if you were to use them and improve upon them, it can make a major difference in how you execute the next thing in your life, how you move forward, right? So if you have those 3 to 5 strengths, if you've documented them well and you understand them, that they're your strengths, then they're going to be great. That's going to be a great skill for you to develop. Use understanding, analyzing what it is your gift is. I'm a big believer in gifting, and I think that if you take your gifts and you put them on steroids, so to speak, right, and drive them to their ultimate fruition, magical things can happen for you in your life. But you can't do it if you can't imagine those things happening. You have to be able to imagine them first. Number 3, list 3 to 5 leadership deficits that you need to be working on in your planning process, that needs some serious attention. For some people, you need to be more organized. For some people, you need to be more articulate in your efforts to vision some ideas, to capture things. You need to be better at that. Some people need to be better at really handling the basics. They can handle the big things, but the basics elude them in life. And so they're falling apart physically, emotionally, mentally, because they don't have the skills to handle the basics, right? You got to be able to do those. Some people are different. Everybody has different leadership deficits or personal deficits, if you want to call them those. That's fine too. But go ahead and list them out. These are weaknesses. These are things that you should be better at. Go ahead and identify them, because when you put them in your plan of how you're going to improve upon these things, you're going to see a way for you to be better before you get better, which means it's going to give you hope. Very, very important part of the planning process. Number 4, how many clients or projects can you handle in a month? And where can you expand your capacity? This is basically, if you understand, it's a capacity question, right? How much can you handle? How much new work can you handle? How much new opportunities can you handle? How many new clients can you handle in a series of a month from where you are right now? And then what is it that you need to do to increase that capacity? Again, a serious part of the planning process and analysis of your capabilities, right? Because your capabilities and your capacity, if they're not maxed out, then there's room to grow, right? If you're trying to figure out if you can be more capable and you can have higher levels of capacity, then there's room for you to grow. That's the space between where you are now in those 2 areas and where you want to be in the future is what you have to put into your plan. You have to see, well, where am I now, and then where am I going, right? So to know those capacities. How many clients can you have? How many do you need to have? How many you want to have? Where can you grow? Kind of thing, right? Number 5. Who are the key players in your industry right now? In your industry, your profession right now? Who are the big dogs, so to speak? The people who don't just make the most noise, but are most credible in your profession or industry. For me, as a coach, I can tell you, one of the best in the business is Marshall Goldsmith. He wrote a book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. That book changed my life. And therefore, ipso facto, Marshall Goldsmith changed my life. Because I realized from the moment I got a few pages into that book that my thinking was being reoriented, and I could no longer act the way I used to act because my thinking was changing. Who can do that for you in your industry, in your profession? Who can help you orient your thinking in the way that things are going to be happening in the future? Think about that. I love this quote from Gretzky, Wayne Gretzky, who said, the great Gretzky, right? He said, I want to be where the puck is going, not where the puck is. And so he was able, through his experience and talent, able to assess, usually when he's out on the ice, where's that puck going? I'm going there. I'm not going to be sitting around chasing the puck. I'm going to be there when it arrives, and then I'm going to do something with it. Right? So it's very, very important. You got to be 3 steps ahead. You got to be 4 steps ahead of what's happening in your life, your business, your industry. If not, then you'll fall victim of thinking you're moving forward, but you're not really moving forward. You're just doing stuff. You're doing stuff that you always had done. You might be even doing new stuff, but you're not necessarily moving forward, not fast enough, not at a pace that's going to keep flow or in front of the flow of history. And greatness happens when you're doing that. It doesn't happen when you're just going with flow. Then you're just average. Number 6, what habits must you break right now to make room for new habits? If you haven't planned to that level, if you're not thinking about that level, if you're not writing down those things, the things that I suggest you, all 4 of those skills, right? These are all things, exercises that you can do for yourself that will point out for you areas of improvement, areas of success, areas where you know you can be bankable and be credible, and areas where you know you need some help, and you need to be able to articulate that, because when you reach out for help, you know what you need help with. Right? Critically important to your success. Okay, I'm going to end the broadcast now. I want to try to figure out how I can splice these 2 videos together so that people can see them. Probably some people are already probably still looking at the old and or the first one that I did earlier today. But I'm also going to make you guys aware of an opportunity I have coming up. On October 31st, I got a program that's really set up to help entrepreneurs, small business in the Washington metropolitan area grow in a way that no other program I've seen before has ever done. It literally is going to be an incredible program. It's virtual, and it's literally going to pair tons of entrepreneurs in the Washington metropolitan area up with professionals, experts in different fields of endeavor that can help them with their business, with their planning, with their process, whatever that planning is. I'm calling it the Leverage Up Conference. The reason why I'm calling it Leverage Up, because the whole goal is to help you create leverage. Leverage is something that makes you more powerful. Leverage is something that makes you be able to do Herculean things that you could not do before you had the leverage. And so my aim for this conference is that anybody who comes gets the right information that they need to move forward. It's leverage. Meets the right people that they need to move forward. That's leverage. Creates for themselves the right types of programs and processes that they need to move forward. That's leverage. I hope that you will participate in the conference and leverage up with us. I'd like to work with you. And if you need to get tickets, I'm going to put that in the chat as well. And so you should go online and get your tickets to the Leverage Up Conference and participate. And again, if you have any questions about anything we talked about today or anything we talked about ever, you know, I am a click away. All you got to do is call me, put something in the chat. I will respond until I can no longer respond. But even if I can't respond, I'll let you know that I can't respond, right? So because I think that's fair. So you're not waiting around for me to respond. And by the way, these chat boxes and things like that, I don't look at them all the time. So you might have a question in there and you might have to wait a day or two for me to respond. But I will respond. And I do appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. And most importantly, I appreciate your passion. I love to work with you, love to talk to you, love to continue to play with you. If you're seeing me here on Facebook, go ahead and like the Facebook channel. If you're seeing me here on YouTube, go ahead and like the channel, give me the thumbs up, subscribe, and we will make sure that you will have access to everything we do in the future. I'm always giving away top of my toys, right? So I'm always got lots of free tools for you. Sometimes I got lots of people for you to meet. So let's pay attention. If you need to join me on LinkedIn, go ahead and do that. I'm looking forward to seeing you. My name is Marvin Powell. You'll be able to recognize my face because my picture's on my LinkedIn profile. And so you met me at Coffee Tea You and Me. Thank you guys. I had a great time. Sorry for the mess up, but you know, we kept the party going. Love you very, very much, and looking forward to seeing you in the future. I want to be there with you in the winner circle. Bye now.